list is endless. And so they can do all sorts of artwork. They can draw, do collages, posters, murals. They can actually create scrapbooks and booklets. They can do greeting cards. They can write poems. They can create brochures. A couple of you wrote about creating a map or designing a 3D model. They can do puppets, masks, mobiles, costumes. They can conduct interviews or surveys and even have a news show. And a couple of you put down a newsletter. They can actually create all sorts of graphics. They can do timelines, what they do during the day. They can create graphs, and I'll show you a couple of those. They can create charts. They can do experiments. And in fact, there's a wonderful one that we'll be looking at. They can create things, invent things. They can do role plays, dramas, performances. They can do story retelling or telling a story of their own. And in fact, they can do a lot of things that talk about themselves, autobiographies, photo-autobiographies, biographies. The list is actually endless. So all of these, even though we have a great deal of variety in the form of projects and the language expectations, of course, because we'll have children at different ages and different levels of English proficiency, all successful projects have the following characteristics. They have a real audience, an authentic audience. They result in new information for the learners. They involve an exchange of information among learners. They require a specific product to be developed and shared, and that should be done in English. And they involve multiple ways of obtaining and sharing results. They can do internet research, interviews, field trips. They can do a variety of things in order to be able to create their projects. And note, projects can be short or long. They can be simple or complex. And there are a variety of those. Obviously, for younger learners, they're going to be shorter. For older learners, they can take more time. But here's some examples of projects for young learners that take a little bit of time, some time, or a lot of time. So they can create a mural, a poster, an accordion book, and that doesn't take a lot of time. They can create a diorama, a shoebox or a pizza box diorama, which is of the house or the park. And I've noticed some of you had a map of their town. That takes a little more time, but it's still pretty short. They can do research on plants or animals and places, their own community, talking with their family, and they can create a poster or object to present, and that's medium term. They can make masks or costumes and present a play, or retell a story after they've taken on some of the characters with their masks. That takes a little more time. And then there's some that are longer term. For example, a really nice thing to do is to actually plant seeds, have them plant seeds in paper cups or in glasses. And especially if you have the same classroom every day, you can vary some of the conditions under which those seeds are in the soil. You can put some of them in the sun and some of them without any sun. You can water some, but not water others. And over time, you can have the students describe what happens, and they actually can create a chart where they measure the growth of the very seeds and the plants that grow, and they can then begin to understand what conditions are important for a plant to grow. So here we're going to be talking about these kinds of projects today. We're going to look at somewhere they get to make creative things. They're using their hands, writing poetry, making class books, connecting their classroom with their home, and they're linking what they're learning in their English class to what they're learning in their math or science classes. We're going to talk about ways that projects can help them to become caring learners. Some of the projects will encourage research. Some will help them to develop visual literacy skills, and some of them will help them develop critical literacy skills. And those last two are very important. In fact, for visual literacy, we're not really sure, but there are different statistics and how much more we remember things that we have seen rather than things that we have just heard or read. And one way to test that out is to show children a book with pictures and then tell that same story without the pictures, and you'll see what a difference it is in what they